Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. This is a translation of the Majlis of Hazrat Maulana QAMAR Sahib Damat Barakatuhum, which took place on Friday at about 9:30 a.m. Friday, the 21st of Jumadul Ula 1444, corresponding with the English date 16th of December 2022. This Majlis took place at the residence of Hazrat Wala Baitul Azkar in Wasiabad, Allahabad, UP, India. Hazrat Wala starts off this Majlis by quoting the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, Ad-Deenu an-Nasiha. Thereafter, looking at the kitab that is in front of Hazrat Wala, he says that this kitab, which is a collection of different booklets regarding suluk and tasawwuf, the name of the kitab being Dasturus Salikin liqurbi Rabbil Alameen. From this particular kitab, Hazrat Wala is dedicating today's majlis to one of those risalas, rather reading from it. The name of this risala is Usulut Tariqah, and it is the compilation of Sheikh Abul Abbas Ahmad Zarruq al-Fa'si. Hazrat Sheikh Abdul Haq Muhaddith Delvi rahimahullah writes in his Akhbarul Akhyar on page number 531 with reference to Sheikh Ali ibn Husamuddin Muttaqi Qadiri Shadiri rahimahullah. Sheikh Ali Muttaqi rahimahullah wrote a commentary to Usulut Tariqah of the famous scholar of Al-Maghrib, Sheikh Ahmad Zarruq rahimahullah. We are quoting the text of this monograph with its translation for general benefit. It contains many useful points. A person had asked Sheikh Ahmad Zarruq rahimahullah about the principles of tariqat. The following is his reply. Sheikh Ahmad Zarruq says, that our path has 5 principles. The first one, Taqwallah fi sirri wal alaniyah, the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in privacy and in public. Hazrat Wala says that Allah Ta'ala over and over again in the Quran Majid addresses the people of Iman and tells them about taqwa. Allah Ta'ala says, Hudal lil muttaqeen, right in the opening verses of Surah Al-Baqarah, that it will be a hidayat for who? For those who fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So whether you are in solitude or in an assembly, you in private or you in public, whether it is night or whether it is day, whether you in the masjid or whether you in the marketplace, fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah used to quote abundantly that from our Buzrugan-e-Deen there were also those who would come into the masjid, they would ascend the mimbar, and then they would go and say, Ya ayyuhan nas, ittaqullah. And then they would descend, come down from the pulpit, and that was their bayan. Just that, O people, fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So always be cautious that what are you speaking? How are you speaking? Where are you speaking? Allahu Akbar. So fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in privacy and in public. وَإِتِّبَاعُ السُّنَّةِ فِي الْأَقْوَالِ وَالْأَفْعَالِ. And number 2, following the sunnah in our words and in actions. Our words and in actions. The third point is وَالْإِعْرَاض عَنِ الْخَلْقِ فِي الْإِقْبَالِ وَالْإِدْبَارِ. Remaining independent of people, whether they embrace us or turn away from us, remaining independent from them. وَالرِّضَى عَنِ اللَّهِ فِي الْقَلِيلِ وَالْكَثِيرِ. Being pleased with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's decree, whether we are in poverty or in prosperity. Allahu Akbar. And the fifth point there, وَالرُّجُوعُ إِلَى اللَّهِ فِي السَّرَّاءِ وَالضَّرَّاءِ. That turning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in comfort and in discomfort. Now looking at those points there, the point there, point number 3, remaining independent of people, whether they embrace us or turn away from us. And the next point immediately thereafter, being pleased with Allah's decree, whether we are in poverty or in prosperity, to be happy with Allah Ta'ala's decision. Hazrat Wala goes on to say that I seen this qissa in the kitab of Amir Uthmani, the faqa and the poverty of Hazrat Haji Imdadullah rahimahullah. So on one occasion, Hazrat Maulana Rahmatullah Sahab came and he said, Haji, look at your condition and this and that. Why don't I make mention of you in front of the Sultan? So he said, by doing that, what will be achieved? You'll go and make mention of me in front of him. He will be impressed. What will he then do? He'll call me and say, come away. Come and stay in the palace. And then I do not want to abandon Baytullah in exchange of Baytul Sultan. Allahu Akbar. I cannot tolerate that. But listen, now that was the Shan Beniyazi, independence. And look at how he comes down now, and tawazu, absolute annihilation of oneself, and humility, the expression of helplessness. What does he say? But you know what? Most definitely convey my salams to him, because he's Malik-e Adil. He's a just king, and his du'as are accepted. So when you would convey my salam to him, he would answer, and I would get the barakat of his dua on my own behalf. But people don't listen to these talks. Sunnah, if you listen, then you'll have some type of ilm. And the barakat of that ilm is, someday or the other, you will make amal on it. Hazrat Wala thereafter goes on to speak about Hazrat Tanvi. And he says that Hazrat Tanvi had so much of love for Hazrat Haji Imdadullah, for his mentor and his peer, that if mention was made of his mentor, Hazrat Haji Imdadullah, in front of Hazrat Tanvi, then he would actually pick up a fever. Hararat ho jati thi. And all of this was in the love. That was the amount, extreme love that he had for his mentor. And what was the foundation? What was the root of all of this here? Is that the original capital and treasure was received from him, from his heart, and that was the ma'rifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He went and he spent 6 long months in the khidmat of Hazrat Haji Imdadullah. It was on that occasion that Haji Imdadullah told him to translate the kitab of Sheikh Ibn Ata'ullah Iskandari. Now we're not talking about some many long centuries ago. We're speaking about the saint, the awliya and the buzrugan of the sadi, of this century. Hazrat Wala also quotes the waqia and the incident that Hazrat Tanvi was presented with a hadiyah, and then there it is written that Hazrat, this is a rakam for you, that listen, if you need it for your personal self, then you may take it, and if the need is for the madrasa, you may put it in for the madrasa. Now, who's quoting all of this here? The sanad. Hazrat Shah Wasiullah Sahib is quoting this, and he was there present when these incidents took place. He's saying that Hazrat Tanvi is there and he's thinking that I have so much zarurat myself. How much did he have at that time? Maybe a few rupees, 2 rupees, 5 rupees with him. And he's looking that there's a great need for the madrasa as well. And then he said, okay, I'll give it to the madrasa. And then he says, okay, I'll keep it for myself. And on how many occasions Hazrat Tanvi took the jewelry of his wife and then he sold it because there was such type of poverty. And then thereafter, when money would come again, then he would take it and then get and purchase the jewelry again and hand it over to her. So his mind started playing that for me or for the madrasa. And then what did he do? And what did he say? He said that तुम्हारा हदिया मुझे तशवीश है वापस. That this hadya that you have handed over to me is actually leading me to become confused and taking up time in my heart and in my mind. It is distracting me from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nevertheless, you take your hadya. Here's it. Returned. Allahu Akbar. Now, and then he would go on to say, Wasiullah, see, this hadya came, but it was against my principles. I returned it. But listen, if Allah Ta'ala so wishes, He'll let that hadya come back according to my usul, or Allah Ta'ala will send another hadya. Allahu Akbar. And just like that, many times the same hadya would come back according to usul or some other type of hadya. And this was the abstinence. You know, we're looking here and we're reading from Sheikh Zarruq's Talim. What was it? It was remaining independent of people, whether they embrace us or they turn away from us, being pleased with Allah's decree, whether we are in poverty or in prosperity. إذا السماء انشقت وأذنت لربها وحقت وإذا الأرض مدت وألقت ما فيها وتخلت. Allahu Akbar. Such a time, the time of Qiyamah, the description of Qiyamah, Allahu Akbar, that this will happen, that will happen, all the riches will be there, but there will be nobody to even ask of it. So this is this ilm. If we listen to it, it is only thereafter that enthusiasm and the thirst to make the amal will be created and come about. I was just reading, Hazrat Abu Bakr radiyallahu ta'ala an had so much of wealth, but that wealth did not create any difference in that nisbat and that grand connection that he had in his heart of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You know, people came, they didn't see the days of poverty in the life of Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Sahab. Yes, they came much later and they seen that time where he had a home and a house of his own. But in that time also, when wealth came, the food was as simple as always. It was simple and it was basic. Allahu Akbar. It was dal and aloo ki tarkari. Just simple, basic. Now these are our akabirin. أولئك آبائي فجئني بمثلهم إذا جمعتنا يا جرير المجامع. That these are our shuyukh, these are our akabir. Bring me the likes of them if you can. Bring me the likes of them. Show me someone of the caliber of this nature. Allahu Akbar. You know, we were there in Tarkeshwar on the occasion of the demise of Maulana Abdullah Sahab. And then they had this jalsa and they allocated just a few minutes, 5-10 minutes per speaker. And the whole day then passed in that. Nevertheless, right at the end, they allocated 20 or 25 minutes for me. And I said to the people, I am very, very well acquainted with the kamalat of Hazrat Maulana Abdullah Kapodri. And this is what we spoke about the entire day. The entire day we spoke about this here. Ulaika abai fajini bimithlihim. But I want to tell you people that they left their ta'aleem here for us. and all these shuyukh that have passed before, they have left this ta'aleem for us. But we now need to live such a life that a caller from the unseen will echo their sentiments which they wanted for their children and the people that they had left behind. And what was the sentiments? And what was those impressions? Ulaika abna'i. That if they could stand up from their graves, then they would have said with happiness and with pride that look, these are my children. Do me a favor, bring me the likes of them. But are we living that life according to the ta'aleem that they had given us? Allahu Akbar. You know, Hazrat Tanwi came and Maulana Yaqub Sahib was there, his ustads were there. And what were they doing at that time? They were fastening the starbandi, the turban around the head. At that time, what did he say? He said, Hazrat, why are you doing this? You're fastening the turban. You're doing this. We are na'ahl. We don't deserve this. He says, yes, we are here today. That's why you feel that. But tomorrow, when we are not here, then it will only be you and only be you. Allahu Akbar. Some people came dressed in the garments of the khawas, but they knew nothing about sidq safa. They knew nothing about the ta'aleem of these pious people. They just came along and they wore their clothes and that was it. Allahu Akbar. And they came and they made the akabirin badnam. Allahu Akbar. So fissarra or waddarra, turning to Allah in comfort and discomfort. On one occasion, some wealth came from India. It reached Jeddah. People came to Hazrat Haji Imdadullah and said, Hazrat, some parcel came for you, some hadiah came for you from India. Now look at that shan of theirs. He says, that very same Zat and Allah who brought my wealth from India to Jeddah will bring my wealth from Jeddah to Makkah. Allahu Akbar. Thereafter, there's a person sitting in the majlis and he's looking this side and he's looking that side. He's looking outside and Hazrat scolds him. Hazrat scolds him and he says, listen, I'm very sensitive about these type of things. I'm giving waz. I'm giving ta'aleem and you're looking outside. Similarly, a person sits and then he starts looking at the watch. He starts looking at the clock. What's the time? I'm very, very sensitive about these things. On one occasion, Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Sahib used to relate this to us, that there was a person, he was there in the courtyard there in Tanabaun, and he had fine clothes on. He had expensive clothes on, and he was sitting, and then it started raining. And then people started running this way and that way because they didn't want their clothes now to get wet. But he calmly composed, collected, read his salat. Thereafter, he went, he changed his clothes and he came away and he sat. Hazrat Tanwi then remarked and he said that fine, expensive clothes deserved to be worn by people of this nature. Allahu Akbar. You know, Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Sahib, he stayed with Hazrat Tanwi for years and years. If I can even say decades, maybe 2 decades. 20 saal. And from his student days, himself and Mufti Shafi Sahib, they used to come and to Tanabawan, they used to come and meet Hazrat Tanwi, sit in his majalis, etc. Hazrat Maulana Abrarul Haq Sahib, I stayed with him also, Hazrat Wala is saying, a long time. On one occasion, something happened and I became anxious and worried. And Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Sahib, Maulana Abrarul Haq Sahib, he was a man sabr and fortification like that of a mountain. And he would always give this ta'aleem. He says, no, awwalan, immediately make ruju ilallah. Turn your attention to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Thereafter, whatever you need to do, you do. Go and adopt the asbab. Go and take medicine. Go and do this. Go and do that. But awwalan, first, in any event and in any circumstance, take your heart and your mind and make ruju, turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Harche az dost mi rasad nekos. Everything that comes from the side of the friend, there is only khair, nur and barakat in it. Nothing else. Okay, then Hazrat Wala thereafter leaves out a few pages there and he goes on to speak about what Sheikh Abul Hasan al-Shadhili radiyallahu ta'ala an says. Awsani Habibi, that my Habib gave me advices, and from amongst those advices he said, do not walk to any place except where you hope for Allah's reward. Do not confine yourself to a place unless you feel you are most likely to be safe from disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And listen to this one. Do not be in the company of anyone except the one who will help you in obeying Allah. Do not select anyone as a bosom friend except the one who will increase your conviction in Allah. Allahu Akbar. Such people are very few. Or he said something similar in meaning. وَقَلَّ مَا هُمْ. Thereafter, Hazrat Wala now starts rounding off and making dua. Hazrat Wala says that Allah Ta'ala give us the tawfiq of treading this path. Is tariq par chalne ki tawfiq de. Give us the tawfiq and the hidayat of walking this path to Allah. Hazrat Wala also makes dua. Allahumma inna nas'aluka al-yusr wal-mu'afat fi dunya wal-akhirah. Oh Allah, we ask you for ease and afiyat in this dunya and in the akhirat. When Hazrat Maulana Abdul Halim, when we were speaking and I mentioned this dua to him, and he was so impressed and taken aback, he said that I also have to make dua like this. Let us also make this dua. Allahumma inna nas'aluka al-afiyah wa dawam al-afiyah wa shukra ala al-afiyah wal ghina anin nas. Rabbana taqabbal minna. Allah Ta'ala accept from us, and Allah Ta'ala unite us together tomorrow in Jannah. Allah Ta'ala unite us all tomorrow in Jannah. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم بحرمة سيد النبي الكريم صلى الله عليه وسلم.